Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Smith. Litter Media Live, special edition. We're talking with Chillicothe Mayor Luke Feeney. Our interview today brought to you by Hometown Motors Incorporated, talking about city business and some unfortunate news about Pixelle. All that coming up right after this.
As a professional race car driver, I live for speed, power, and performance on and off the track. That's why I use the Dixie Chopper, the world's fastest lawnmower. Race into your local dealership today and test drive a new Dixie Chopper.
It's on my head. We're back with Luke Feeney. Yeah, it was that was 2 interviews ago, right? It was your birthday that day.
That's right, tax day.
But that was a triple whammy, because we also got word that day originally that Pixelle paper mill in Chillicothe would be closing their doors. We got a reprieve a few days later, but now word, United States Senator Bernie Moreno has confirmed to the Jeff Allen and Tim Jenkins, the union president and vice president of the union at the paper mill, that HIG Pixelle is going to tell employees probably today that they're going to be closing in August.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. I think that, from my perspective, what was issued on April 15th was a legal notice required by the state of Ohio when there's layoffs of over 100 people, that you have to give 60 days notice. That's called a WARN notice. That notice has not been retracted. That 60 days expires this weekend. And, we all heard then that Friday, Good Friday, that we had assurances from HIG that the paper mill would stay open through the end of the year. So here's where I am. I have also heard from the senator that we should expect a new WARN notice to be issued, which would be a 60-day extension. Until I see that notice, until I see something official, I'm not going to count on that. And I don't want to create any unnecessary worry. I believe the same thing has been relayed to the union, as you mentioned. But I do not want to be in a position of passing along information that's not accurate. And so I think in this scenario, what we have is HIG, which is a company that owns Pixelle, and we have communications between Pixelle and the employees and the community. When I received the WARN notice, which was required by law on the 15th that day, it was delivered to me as the mayor from somebody at Pixelle. Mm-hmm. And so I've not received communication from Pixelle today, but I can confirm that I've heard the same things about a new WARN notice being issued this week. And so I'm operating under that assumption, but being prepared for anything.
Since that April original announcement, of course, it was announced, as you mentioned, on Good Friday that there were efforts from the federal level, state level, local level, government and Chamber of Commerce, job development organizations within the state. And there has been an effort ever since that time to talk to even other entities about coming in. Do we have any idea how many different businesses may have even expressed an interest to come and look at the site?
Sure, that's completely accurate. So Jobs Ohio is Ohio's for-profit, or private, I should say, job development organization. Mm-hmm. It is not a governmental entity, but it exists to develop jobs and businesses in Ohio. They have been working nonstop to try and pair or find a suitor, somebody who might acquire that facility. I've heard varying estimates of how many have been interested, how many have visited. I do know that those who become to a certain level of interest sign non-disclosure agreements. So there has been serious looks. Mm-hmm. I think that, my impression would be that HIG and or Pixelle attempted the same thing prior to a decision to close. And so I think that the quantity of that could be anywhere from 10 to 20 groups. I think that the quality is harder to measure. Mm-hmm. the level of interest is harder to measure. And so I think that going forward, we're looking at a facility that, we said it from day one, the ideal scenario is it stays open, keeps making the same thing, and gets some investments. And then from there, I think these companies who visited, if that's not the exact business they're in, specialty paper making, they're looking at it from a lens of what else could we make here? A paper type product that uses a similar type of pulp might be an ideal scenario. And then, the next tier after that is what are the other types of things that we could do either in a facility like this or at a site like this.
Have there been any discussions or, I guess, looking at the possibility of the company turning that site over to the community, much like we would have if it was a spec building or a spec site, where the community holds on to that, looking and marketing it down the road?
Yeah, so if the paper mill does not stay operational, which I think is a safe assumption, in my opinion, what you just talked about is the best case scenario. You can look across the state and see scenarios of, let's say, a steel mill. Steel mill, that company goes out of business. They put chain on the door, lock it up, and never come back. It can take a long, long time for a community to get control over sites like that. There's environmental remediation issues. The best case scenario, in my opinion, if the paper mill closes and there's not an immediate buyer, would be that the local community gets the opportunity to hold, acquire, and then be in control of our destiny when you think about repurposing. The biggest risk in all of that probably is environmental remediation. We all know that paper mill has been there for a long, long time. Yeah. And over time, what the EPA requires for environmental standards today is not what it was 200 years ago. Regardless of that, the best case scenario is us controlling our own destiny. Alternatives, if you're thinking what are the alternatives, if we don't control our destiny, the type of facility that could go in there is probably the thing that is popping up the most around Ohio and other places, which are things like data centers, which are big facilities that are mostly vacant of people. We don't want that same footprint to have 10, 20, 30 employees. We want that same footprint to have 600, 700, 800, 900 employees. And so that's why it's important for us to control the outcome. Now, what the leverage looks like to make that happen, to force a private company to turn over, may or may not be there. I think that my understanding and my experience over the past 2 months has been that communications and cooperation, to the extent that that's a thing for a company that's closing, has been positive. And so I think that there are at least lines of communication open that would lead me to believe that type of question, that type of communication is possible, and we can go after an outcome like that. We are fortunate. The community has 3 organizations that exist that could acquire and or hold property like that. We recently created a port authority. We have a community improvement corporation, and we have a land bank. Land banks in particular have special authority under the law to be held harmless if they acquire and or own property that is contaminated, which could be a big deal for the community if the land bank would acquire, and so that future owners would be held harmless, and or the land bank or other entities work with Pixelle, HIG, whoever it might be, to remediate, clean the site, and turn it into something great for the community.
When you mentioned the importance of making sure that any site that's abandoned there's a remediation of any potential hazardous materials, long before you came to this community, and it's just down the street from us, wherever. When that closed, that went years and years. I don't know that it was ever completely remediated.
Right. And that's the important thing here, and that's why the lines of communication are so important, because, the land bank right now the land bank has $1 million to remediate some property in the city. And we have been going after brownfield money and taking care of old sites. But frankly, this community can't wait years and years to repurpose that site. And so, I'll reiterate, Jobs Ohio, the support we've gotten from the state, the officials that we've mentioned before, it's real. And they have been very helpful in helping us think through how to get funding to do certain things, the steps necessary. There are multiple steps necessary to even find out the levels of contamination. Before a land bank could even acquire a property like that and be held harmless, a phase 1 evaluation has to be done. Phase 2 is a little bit more in depth to give you a better sense of what remediation is actually necessary. And then the can of worms is open, and you've tried to solve what needs to be done for different use cases, right? So industrial reuse might have a different level of remediation than residential reuse or a city park and that sort of thing. So a lot of uncertainties right now, and I want to convey that to the public, is that there are a lot of uncertainties, and I'm going to do my best to convey what I know, and also not try to spread anything that is inaccurate. I'll do my best to convey facts, be transparent, and let people know what I know, which is, it's tough right now to not be able to convey more.
We already know the Chamber of Commerce, they've done an outstanding job along with other entities to make known to employees, existing employees there at the mill, that we're here to help you with everything from resumes, job searches, things of that nature. I know that years ago there was and I think this was put into place by Congress, because I can remember when the old Bud company, Bosch, out in Frankfurt closed, they could show that closure had something to do with foreign businesses that caused the downfall of the domestic business. And as a result, many of those employees were given grants to go get an education in another field, to receive training. Is there any way that could be tied into the possibility of this plant closing? Yeah,
I haven't heard about that. I think you guys have brought up already the Scioto Valley Forward website.
Yep.
That's a collaborative effort to basically just get information out, B, let people be aware of, the library has 3 days a week. It's going to be a computer lab. Job fairs coming up and resources that'll be available. I don't want to speculate on A, what's caused it, or B, what resources might be available. I think that what we know is locally we will advocate, whether it's to, federal delegation, state senators, Congress, the state of Ohio, for any and all resources that we can bring in, whether that's retraining, extended unemployment, whatever that might be. But I think that the thing that we've been challenged with is, I can't recall a time when we've put all of our time and energy into 3 completely different things, right? We want to put all of our time and energy making sure that employees, if and when they're displaced, have options, but at the same time, keeping employees there so we can show that it's a great facility, and really emphasizing to people who are interested in buying what an incredible workforce we have. I mean, it is a talented workforce. Yeah. That facility has its issues, and I'm confident that only our workforce here in Chillicothe is the only reason it's still going, right? And so we want to see prospective purchasers to see what a good workforce it is. But at the same time, we don't want those employees to wait and deal with that uncertainty. So I think that I know that the local community, the number partners with, like you said, the chamber, everybody else is partnering together to create that resource. This is just kind of, I think, the tip of the iceberg. And then I think if and when it becomes real is when we ramp up those resources. And really, I think what we'll try to do is be responsive to the needs specifically as they are. Community Foundation has shown up. Job and Family Services has shown up. And sometimes, in a way, this reminds me of COVID, how every day something was different. And we're trying to respond. We're trying to anticipate the problems. But sometimes we don't know what they're all going to be. And so we just need to be ready to move quickly and address them as they come.
So as we're doing this interview live, there's a big question mark there. Just keep tuned in, and we'll get you the information as quickly as we can. Changing gears, something that was announced, golly, maybe over a year ago, as a possible housing development just up the street. That property was sold by the city schools. Goodwill had it for a while. They sold it off, and there was a plan that was shown to the community of how that could possibly become a residential area for, I don't know if it was low to moderate income housing or what. But what's the latest on that?
Sure. So that's Tiffin School site you're talking about. The city bought it from Goodwill with the intention in the future of housing. And, genuinely, this is a time when we need to be moving on projects like that, right? And making sure that prospective employers see workforce housing as an opportunity. So the city didn't have any sort of required type of housing that it would be. Workforce housing generally, something that is affordable to people. We weren't necessarily geared towards something that was subsidized. Probably a month to 6 weeks ago, I sent a request to City Council that we take the next step, which is, I mentioned the CIC. Cities in Ohio cannot sell property directly to a developer. It just has to go up for bid. But in the furtherance of economic development, cities can take surplus property, transfer it to the Community Improvement Corporation, which can work with potential developers to create the type of housing that we want in the community. Mm-hmm. So I've sent that to the law director. Councilman Dan DeMint went to his committee. He took it through his committee. The city council liked the idea, and they've sent it on to the law director, and it's waiting at the law director to be in front of council. And so I think, the timing of that is really good for a couple of reasons. One, we want to create housing. We know we need housing. But two, any type of projects that we can get going in the city where there's work to be done is another positive thing. And so the other legislation that I sent at the exact same time was a similar process, which is the city's old water shop, which is on Yaktangi Parkway there, which we've been talking for about 2 years to a veterans group about making it a veterans museum. And so at the same time that I sent the Tiffin legislation in, I also sent a request in recommending that we take that property there, the water shop, right next to the Veterans Park, and convey it to the CIC as well so that they can work with this veterans nonprofit to create a veterans museum right there, which is, again, it's a tourism thing. It's a way that we can, it's not a paper mill. It's not hundreds of jobs, but it's another something in our tool belt that we can create that brings people here, shows respect to veterans and the veterans in this community, the VA. And so both of those are at the law director's office waiting to be drafted and hopefully get in front of council in the next meeting.
And just to remind our viewers of something that we reported on, it's been about 2 weeks ago. It came out from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, that the report that they had that showed, and I can't remember what time frame it was, $150-some million is brought into Ross County as a result of tourism.
Right.
So that's not chump change either.
No, and I think that, something in the city we've been talking about since I was auditor was a diversified economy. Just to give you an idea, when I was city auditor, the paper mill represented about 13% of the city's total income tax. Checking with Auditor Spetnagel last week or a couple weeks ago, it was down to about 8%. That is an indication of the economy has grown. We've had increased revenues over those 10 years, but the paper mill has made up a smaller percentage of that, which is a good thing in terms of us weathering the storm. And a large part of that is the growth of the tourism industry. And it's important that, again, while we're juggling and trying to figure out what's happening with the paper mill, we have to continue to invest in the tourism that we have and think about other types of tourism. I think that, we just had a session yesterday talking about recreational tourism. If you think about the volume of visitors to Logan, Hocking County, Hocking Hills. We can get a piece of that because we have as many amenities or more. Yeah. Get people to visit Adena Mansion, Hopewell, et cetera, et cetera. And so continuing to invest in those things in a time when it's scary to invest is really important.
I was coming, my wife and I was coming, we were coming home from Columbus a couple of weeks ago. It was raining, and we were driving by the ball field south of Columbus. I couldn't believe it. I've been by there many times and seen the crowd, but even when it was raining, of course, I think they have artificial surface out there, but these are people that are coming into that area from other states to play softball in some kind of tournament or whatever. That's money that comes into that community.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, you know, the new field out at the Paints, Brian does a great job out there of bringing in tournaments. I think we all know what a good time it is to be at a Paints game, but what some of us don't realize is how many out-of-town tournaments happen there. But that's just one field. Yeah. And so what we need to think through, and we continue to think through, is where are the assets that we have, whether it's the park annex or other places where we can say, okay, we can accommodate regional tournaments, that sort of thing, because people are already coming here from the region, right? So come here and shop, dine, spend the night, spend the weekend, play ball games, visit Tecumseh. Continuing to curate that is very important for this economy.
One last thing, I think I know the answer to this, but I wanted to make sure we got it out because we had done an interview about that and hadn't followed up. The veto that you had of the open camping ordinance, was that overridden by council? It was.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that got out on the air to those who heard our previous interview. Yep. I guess there is just one more promo, and that's this weekend, the Kenworth Parade. That's gotten to be another big thing for the people to come into Chillicothe to see.
If you haven't been, you got to go. I mean, it is so much fun. You know, I still think every year it can't be as much fun as last year. And every year it doubles down. You know, I think maybe last year was the first year that the band rolled in on the back of the truck. I mean, it is just the best time. So yeah, Saturday night, even if you have something better going on, it's not better than this. So drop that and come down and come to the truck parade. It is the best.
All right, Mayor, we appreciate your being with us. Chillicothe Mayor Luke Feeney on a special edition of Litter Media Live, brought to you by Hometown Motors Incorporated.